dance my ass.
I'm only four. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, right?
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I'm your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 88th year of the award at the 92nd Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 2019. Today's guest you last heard discussing Peter and the Wolf and the nominees of 2007. Please welcome back Emily. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
Welcome back. Yeah,
Thank you for having me back. I loved being on this last time.
yeah, it's I remember. It's like for this episode, I was just like I was having a hard time trying to actually just pick a guest for it because it's like I kept going back and forth because like as the listeners will soon find out, this year has is a bit depressing. Each one of these shorts has a lot of like heavy themes in it. And so it was just like I was just like, who do I want to put this through? And then you and then you had texted me at one point just saying that's like, hey, after we recorded, it's like I just started watching a bunch of short films. It's just like, you know, let's
Hmm.
just make her watch some more. And of course, I still did warn you just like how heavy this year is. But as we briefly mentioned before we started recording, it's just like even though this year is still kind of depressing, I'm still excited to talk about this. I think we can have a really good, really fun conversation.
Hmm.
Uh, but just remind us before we get into it, what is your familiarity with the best animated short category?
Well, before I was on your podcast, it was probably one of the Oscar categories I paid the least attention to. Like
Of
when I was a
course.
kid, you'd see the ones before like the Disney and Pixar shorts, but otherwise I didn't personally seek them out. But now I'm like, hey, this category has some really interesting shit. I gotta look into this more often.
Hmm. And you did. It's just I've seen you on Letterboxd or you just like DM me. You just like, hey, I'm watching this one and this one. And it's just like it's just so cool. It's just like this is why I made this podcast just to make to try and get people interested in all these old short films.
Hmm.
What's the like of the Oscar nominees you've watched since coming out? What do you think was your favorite?
Oh God, I honestly the We Don't Need Cosmos one, I really
Yes.
liked that one.
Yes. Uh, for those listening, like that's literally my favorite short in this whole category. Or wait, is it? Or is Telltale Heart my favorite? I forget. They're both my top two,
Mhm.
but still, I'm just like very happy, very happy. But anyway, let's just move right along. Let's try and get into this. But before we even get to the short films this year, even though this is a short film centric podcast, there is also a Best Animated Feature category at the Academy Awards. So, to be fair to them, Emily, I will just list off the names of the nominees for Best Animated Feature this year, and I want you to tell me in just one word what you think of them, or simply say you haven't seen it if you haven't seen it. You
Okay.
ready?
Hmm.
All right, so first we have the year's winner, which is Toy Story 4.
Haven't seen yet.
Then we have How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World.
Haven't seen yet.
Then we have I Lost My Body.
Haven't even heard of that one.
It's like this, I think it's Spanish. It's just it's an interesting one. Number four, we have Klaus.
Haven't seen it, do want to.
And number five, we have Missing Link.
I don't think I heard of that one either.
That's
Oh,
the
no, I
like
know.
that's the
I've seen
Leica
the
movie.
ads for that one.
Yeah. Uh, that is the first time I've done this where the guest hasn't seen a single one. But anyway, that was good fun, but now we'll move on to our first nominee and the year's winner, which is Hair Love, directed by Matthew A. Cherry, Everett Downing Jr., and Bruce W. Smith. This is the first and only nomination and win for Cherry and producer Karen Rupert Tolliver. This is also the second nomination and second win for Sony Pictures Animation, last winning for The Chub Chubs in 2002. Tolliver is also the first black woman to win an Oscar in this category, and Cherry being the second black man to win after Kobe Bryant won for Deer Basketball 2 years prior. Another thing is that Cherry and Bryant have in common though is that they are both former professional athletes. However, Cherry played football rather than basketball. Matthew A. Cherry started his film and football career in college at the University of Akron, earning a bachelor's degree in media and being the best receiver in the school's history. He was active for He then went to the NFL and was active for 3 seasons, but had a far less illustrious career there. As far as I can tell, he never even played in a regular season game, ended up leaving football after a shoulder injury had him sit out a whole season with the Ravens. Cherry instead wanted to pursue a film career, specifically as a director. He directed the music video for Michelle Williams' song Say Yes, a short film called This Time, and his feature debut was The Last Fall from 2012, which is about a former NFL player wondering what to do with his post-football career. After his second feature film, Nine Rides in 2016, he posts a tweet saying, "Any 3D artists follow me? I got an Oscar-worthy short film idea to go with this image," and posted a 3D rendered image of a father and daughter. Over the next year, Cherry would seek out artists and filmmakers to collaborate with him on this project and further refined his idea until eventually he launched the Kickstarter for Hair Love. As the page says, the film would be about the relationship between an African American father, his daughter, and her hair as he struggles to as he struggles to do her hair the way her mom usually did. Cherry's main goal for the film was twofold. First, to provide representation for Black people in animation, specifically for Black fathers who have continuously had negative portrayals in Hollywood. Secondly, to hopefully have Black children watch the film and learn to be proud of their hair. The Kickstarter had a goal of only $75,000, but ended up raising nearly 300,000, the highest of any short film on the platform to this date. With the success, it came time to get this film actually made. This is where Karen Rupert Tolliver comes in. She is a production executive that has worked at studios like Disney, Blue Sky, Universal, and eventually Sony Pictures Animation. Cherry sought her out to assist with the production of Hair Love due to her experience in film production and specifically animation. She related heavily to the project and joined it as producer, and I believe she is the major reason why the short ended up getting picked up by Sony Pictures for distribution. Beyond Hair Love, Cherry was able to get a lot of work as a TV director, directing episodes of The Last OG, Blackish, Bel Air, Abbott Elementary, and many other shows, and also has a feature animated film development at Sony called Tut. And Hair Love would also be turned into a TV series on HBO Max called Young Love. But going back to the short, let's talk about its production. While the film was being worked on ever since the Kickstarter campaign, things didn't really kick off until Sony Pictures got involved in early 2019. And in April of that year, Sony told them that they wanted the film to screen alongside the Angry Birds movie 2, which was slated for an August release. This was great because their film was going to get a theatrical release, but also terrible because the film was nowhere near done. What's worse is that the majority of the Hair Love team had other jobs and responsibilities to attend to, so they couldn't work on the film full time, yet they needed to fully animate and produce a short film in 4 months. It took a lot of effort and a lot of crunch time, but the team was able to get it done, and the film did in fact screen before Angry Birds 2. The short was actually so popular that later Sony would also screen it with Jumanji: The Next Level and Little Women. Hair Love is about a young black girl who really wants her hair done for some special event. She tries to do it herself, following a YouTube tutorial that her mom made, but it fails miserably. Her father sees this and at first tries to just get her out the door since they're running late, but she insists he do her hair. Thus, a great battle ensues between the father and her hair, and eventually he does get the hair looking perfect. The father and daughter then go out to the hospital and pick up the mother who has just finished chemotherapy. The daughter gives her a drawing reminding her that even without her hair, she is still beautiful. Emily, what did you think of Hair Love?
I thought it was utterly adorable. I think, like you said, it's a very sweet story. I'm sure for a lot of Black families, this meant a lot. I think the animation is great. I love the sequence with the dad fighting the hare. I love the mean cat. I just really loved this little short. I'm glad it had such a success.
Yeah, it it's it's a rare success story that we like get this at this kind of year. It's because it's like just the fact that this short just like started out as like a Kickstarter campaign and then it went viral back then and then was able to actually, get made, which is a rare thing for lots of Kickstarter campaigns. Uh,
Hmm.
but then it got picked up by Sony and then again, like once it came out, everybody was talking about this. Yes, and so it's also just like one of the few times where it's like the winner for best animated short feels predetermined in advance. And it's like, especially when
Hmm.
it's like something like outside of Pixar or whatever, or it's
Hmm.
just like, yeah, everybody loved this movie and it's obviously going to win.
Hmm.
And that being said, so when I first watched this back in 2019, 2020, um, I loved this. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was just so full of heart and everything. But this time, it feels a little bit generic. It feels bad to say, but it's just like I I'm a lot more experienced with short films now than I was back then, and it's just like this feels exactly like every single short film that goes viral. Oh, where it's just like it's just this totally generic story. You just about these two people like falling in love. Like it's like that there's like In the Heartbeat or like the one short film about the kid who like gets a prosthetic arm or whatever. It's just like there's all these just little short films that go randomly viral. Oh, and it's just like they all have these like same little things in common. It's like they are told entirely without words. They have like really they don't I don't want to say it has stylized animation or doesn't have stylized animation. But it's just like they all have a very specific way the animation looks where it's just like they try to make it look like a big budget even though they don't really have a big budget. And so it's just this very specific thing. And it's just like I I still really do like this movie. I still think there is a lot of like genuine heart in there. It still does tug at those heartstrings, but it's just like I can tell this is somebody's first short film. And it's just like and it's a good job for a first short film, but at the same time, I I don't think it really deserves an Oscar, but it still wins whenever anyway, because everybody saw it, everybody loved it. And you know, my opinion doesn't really matter here.
Yeah, I'm obviously not as versed in the category as you, but I can see that being a very valid point, like especially with the animation style.
Yeah. And
Like,
it was funny like reading into production and seeing that like it was made in only 4 months with limited staff and it was just like, oh, that makes sense because the
hmm.
animation is just so jittery. It's just like you can tell like it I f- I want to talk with Matthew H. Cherry and I want to like ask him is this how you envisioned the short to be? Like is this like everything you wanted or would you have wanted to spend a little more time on it to like actually kind of refine it a little bit? And also, I think the pacing is just weirdly off. And also the short being told without dialogue, like you can do a really good short without dialogue, but this one, it's like there's so many moments where it's like you feel like they're about to say something, then
Hmm.
they don't. And it's like, especially with the daughter, I feel like in this situation, she would want to be very talkative. She would,
Hmm.
or it's like, but it's just doesn't. She just doesn't talk. Nobody talks in this except for Issa Rae as the mom. And
Hmm.
it's just like. I want to like this more than I do, and I still do like it, but it's just there's just little problems with it, but it's still
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, I mean, have you watched the cartoon that was formed after this at all?
Oh, I have not watched Young Love. Part of me wanted to like I think there is like an episode that's free on YouTube, but I just it just didn't like between me finding out about it and me recording and us recording this episode, there was just a short amount of time, and I
Hmm.
just did not watch it in that time.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, like it's just telling the story just like after the fact. It's just like it has all the same characters, and I think it's just trying to be a standard family sitcom, just showing the life of this family.
Hmm.
Anything else you'd like to say about Airlift? I thought we were going to have a much longer conversation about that.
I'm sorry. I mean, like I just think it's like I'm a much simpler person, so I just thought it was cute and that's it.
Okay. Um, all right. I guess we'll just move on. I, I thought I had something else I wanted to bring up, but I can't think of it. If I remember, I might just jump back randomly to this film, but let's just move on. Our second nominee is Sarah or Daughter by Daria Kashiva. This is the first and only nomination for Kashiva, a Tajik-born Czech filmmaker who still studies at the Film TV School of the Academy of Performing Arts in Prague. People like Kashiva are the hardest to write about because she doesn't have a story for me to tell yet, because she's still writing it. She's a fascinating new voice in the film world, making Daughter and her most recent film Electra while in film school, and already she's won awards around the globe and was recently selected for an artist residency in Cannes, which she's currently at right now. Uh, but here's what I can find. Kashiva originally wanted to be a sound designer, but realized that the world wasn't right for her, and eventually found herself drawn to animation. When she got into the aforementioned Prague Film School, she started experimenting, trying to figure out what kinds of animation she likes, what new things she can do with it, etc. For her thesis project, she wanted to try and make a film that combined handheld camera aesthetic with animation. Kashiva always looks for a challenge when making a film, and this was the challenge she wanted to tackle. She found influence in the Dogma 95 movement, Danish film movement that tried to get to the bare bones of filmmaking. Specifically, it was Lars von Trier's Breaking the Waves, which she took the most from, even studying that film frame by frame to truly understand it and apply its techniques to an animated film. And when testing the animation, would try to copy some camera movements from it. It took 4 months to animate in total, and her husband Alexander edited the film. Her film, along with the other thesis films, were submitted to Annecy Film Festival, and and Daughter being accepted and eventually winning an award at the festival. Suddenly, Kashiva was getting petitions from festivals around the world to screen her film, and of course, eventually got her the Oscar nomination. Daughter is about, well, a daughter visiting her ill father in the hospital. The film shows us scenes from their past, how the father was emotionally unavailable for her, and then how she started to shut him out of her life. So, when I first watched this film, I thought it was so boring. I thought it had like no plot, but it just like it looked nice, but I thought it was just terrible. Uh, Now I love this movie. I really like it. I I think just like me like sitting here like watching it for a podcast, looking for thing like just trying to really get into the film, just like help me like really see the ways it really portrays this like this deteriorating relationship. And it's just like it just started to hit me really emotionally, and it's just like wow. Like,
Hmm.
and it's just like, and I love the bird motif also. And it's like, and I know a lot of people like complain about it. They think it's weird how it's like one of the first scenes in the movie is the daughter just bringing a dead bird into the house while her dad's making dinner. But it's just like, it, it really worked for me, and just like how it keeps coming back up, how like she starts dressing up as a bird, and then the dad eventually finds the mask, and then she finds the mask. It's all it all just really really works for me, and it clicked in a way that it hasn't before. And I was just like, I'm really glad that I watched this film again.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch it myself because I was in the same camp as you the first time. I was like, there's nothing really going on here. The animation is beautiful. I don't know if beautiful is the right word I want to use, but it's such a unique style.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'd have to watch it again because before I was just, I don't know enough about this to get emotionally invested.
What were you thinking was like happening?
I mean, all I could tell was like, obviously she's visiting her sick dad, and then flashbacks to the childhood where she was upset he didn't hug her while he was making dinner. Then there was that like parade, which I'm guessing is a cultural thing that I don't understand. Then she seems to realize that they should reconnect. They do when he's on the gurney, and then the bird motif.
I mean, you got all the pieces there. It's just about putting them together.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, it. and it's like I really want to like talk to Kashiva just to like figure out how the hell she like accomplished making like a shaky camera aesthetic in a
Mhm.
short film. It's like because I don't think it was like something that I added like digitally in post. I think they did like make that camera move like
Mhm.
that, like
Yeah,
frame by
oh, the
frame.
camera works awesome.
And it's just like, and I saw like some people talking about it, like how they thought it was distracting, but it's just like it just works so well for
Mhm.
this. And And it's like I really want to watch Kashiva's next film, called Electra, and it's like it's made completely differently. It's made using pixelation, which is like when you use like human figures to animate and just like move a person frame by frame. And it's just like it looks very interesting, but I I didn't see it like available to watch anywhere, not even for like rented or whatever. But I'm really curious about it. Anyway,
Mhm.
love this movie.
Mhm.
We are
I'm
moving quick through this, I think. I
I'm
don't
so
think we have
sorry.
anything
I
else to
just
say.
you have I feel bad.
Okay. But do you have anything else you'd like to say? Any other points?
Um, I really liked the scene where she imagines she's a bird and then she like the animation doll like flops to the ground. I thought
Oh,
that was really
oh,
cool.
yeah, and then the dad like picks her up then and it's just like and it's like and that scene it's just like it's again kind of showing it's just like how she thinks that her dad wouldn't love her unless he was like some dead animal and it's like picks her
Hmm.
up and finally holds her. It's just like
Hmm.
God, I love this movie. I love it. It's just like it all connects. It's all good.
Hmm.
But anyway, we're gonna just move on to our third nominee, which is Kitbull, directed by Rosanna Sullivan. This is the first and only nomination for Sullivan and producer Catherine Hendrickson, but the 16th nomination for Pixar after winning last year for Bow. This is also the first nominee from Pixar's Spark Shorts program, which gives Pixar employees 6 months and a limited budget to create a short film showcasing their talents as filmmakers through the world, specifically highlighting diverse voices that the company has failed to uplift in the past. Kitbull was one of the first three shorts released from this program, alongside Pearl and Smash and Grab. Back to the nominee, though, Rosanna Sullivan started at Pixar in 2011 as a storyboard artist on films like Monsters University, The Good Dinosaur, Incredibles 2, and the Oscar-winning short Piper. The concept of the short came from Sullivan's love of animal videos, especially those seeking unlikely animals becoming friends, and from there developing characters about two outcast animals bonding together in harsh circumstances. Sullivan and Hendrickson were developing the film themselves outside of Pixar, but once they learned about Spark Shorts, they submitted it to the program and got approved for production. Kitbull takes its title from the film's two main characters, a kitten and a pit bull. A lost kitten finds its way into living in a box in someone's backyard. Also, in that backyard, the home's owner ties up his new pit bull. The kitten is, of course, wary, but it turns out the pit bull is very nice and the two play together. But when the owner starts abusing the pit bull, the two unlikely friends decide to escape the house. Emily, what did you think of Kitbull?
Well, it made me cry, so I really enjoyed it. I'm sorry, I know you didn't like this one.
I was wanted to reveal that. So So I guess I'll just go into it. So this film did also make me cry. Like it made me cry the last two times I saw it, but in a way that I just do not enjoy, because I truly hate this movie, and I think this is the example for just a cheap, terrible animated short that just exists to tug on your fucking heartstrings and have no actual point or anything to it outside of like, isn't this cute? Isn't this sad? Isn't this cute and sad? And it's just like to exploit animal abuse just for cheap emotion like that is just so disgusting to me. And it's just like there is nothing in this film that like really justifies anything. It's just like I said, it's just cheap emotion. And like as I was dreading this episode just for this short. As I was writing the plot description and just like researching the film, I was developing a just like a pit in my stomach just for how much this short just makes me fucking mad. And it's just I I cannot stand this short. And it's like when I watched the nominees this year in theaters back in 2020, it was just like I left the theater when the short started playing because I had watched it on YouTube already. And it's just like I just did not want to watch it again. And God, I really wish I could have done that this time, but I felt I just had to sit through it just for this episode, and it's just I just hate it. I just but at least it did raise a few ratings, and while it used to be like the worst nominee in this whole entire category, it is now only the second worst nominee in the entire category.
What's the worst? The one
Over
that won this year?
no, that's still above this. The worst nominee of all time is Hunky and Spunky. It is a Fleischer film from 1937, I think. And it's just two donkeys and they are making noises, certainly. They make these terrible, terrible donkey noises. And it goes like that for like 10 minutes. Just these donkeys making noises. And it's awful, and I hate it. It's like at least with this one, it has like kind of nice animation, and it's like, and there are parts of it that are like enjoyable, and it's like if I ignore the fact that this film is evil, oh, it's just like there are parts of it that are like cute or whatever, but it's just like it it doesn't try to have any artistic purpose or anything. It just wants to be, hey, remember cat videos? Remember those videos of like when the dog and the cat are playing together and it's like it's cute? Yeah, let's make that. But also let's make the dog fucking abused. Let's make the cat just a fucking lost kid and we'll make it so that the you're just fucking sad the whole time. It's just like just to say fuck you to the audience because they don't deserve joy.
I mean, but it has the nice happy ending where they're adopted.
Yeah, and it's so fucking hacky. It's just like they leave the fucking house and then they just immediately get found by this fucking wealthy couple. And it's just like, okay, sure, whatever. It I fucking hate this. Do you have any defenses for this movie?
I don't know. I just, like I said, I'm a very simple person. It did what it was meant to do, which was tug at my heartstrings. I cried. I thought the kitten was animated adorably with its big eyes.
Mhm.
Other than that, I just liked it.
I do think the kitten and the pit bull designs were cute though. I do like the way that they're animated and stuff. But again, with love, if the pit bull just didn't have to be abused, but whatever. It's God. I wish there was just a different movie with these characters
Hmm.
and this team and everything. I just wish they decided to make something else. But
Hmm.
they made this and wish they did. I guess we'll just move on to our fourth nominee, which is Memorable, directed by Bruno Collet. This is the first and only nomination for Collet and producer Jean-Francois Lecour. Collet graduated from the Higher European School of Art of Brittany in 1990, and from there takes a variety of arts-related jobs, from photographer to set designer on a variety of projects, but begins his directorial career in 2001 with Back to the Wall, debuting at Cannes and winning two awards, including the Golden Rail. He followed that up with Calypso is Like So, which was a tribute to Robert Mitchum. That film got the attention of Turner Classic Movies, who helped produce and distribute a series of shorts titled Rest in Peace. He said he made immediately after. He has a few other shorts, his most famous being The Little Dragon, about the ghost of Bruce Lee possessing a doll. But we'll move on ahead to the main attraction for today, Memorable. The idea for the film came from William Utermohlen, an American painter who was famous for his self-portraits. Utermohlen got Alzheimer's late in his life, but kept drawing his self-portraits throughout it, and thus depicted his deteriorating health. Coulet wanted to tell that story, a painter suffering from Alzheimer's from inside the mind. Also, an inspiration was Peter Falk, specifically how his second wife and conservator, who had holed him up in an enclosed space within his home, with Coulet enjoying the idea of portraying a person who's trapped both physically and mentally. All of this then informs the style of the film, stop motion animation featuring the painter's mind and world slowly deteriorating. with painted stylings infecting the space. Memorable shows the world from the man's perspective, as he can't recognize simple objects, sees people as distorted monsters, and is constantly confused as to where he is. The one constant is his wife, who must bear witness to his slow deterioration. One last note, in an interview when asked what it was like to get an Oscar nomination, I really like Calais' quote here, where he says, for a Frenchie like me who directs short films, to be nominated for an Oscar is like breaking into Fort Knox with a hairpin. It's truly incredible. So,
That's awesome.
yeah. Uh, so I I remember I this short can get really easily compared to a nominee from last year, which is Late Afternoon, which is another short film about depicting dementia from inside the mind of a person. And in that film, it's like an older woman. This is an older painter, and it's just like, and I had you, Emily, watch this movie. I watched Late Afternoon as well, just to help compare this. And I was talking about this short in that last episode, just thinking in my memory of it, it was just like that this film just kind of it feels more exploitative. It felt more exploitative of the disease when I first watched it. And it's just like how it wasn't really about the person. It was more about like what it's like to suffer with this. And it's just like didn't really care for that. But on this watch of it, I I really appreciate how much it does to show the character. Or it's just like it isn't just about the disease. It also is really about the marriage. And that's Collet himself even confirmed that to me. I remember thinking, or not thinking, I remember reading an interview with him where he said something along the lines of like people keep coming up to me and talking about how this is a great film about dementia. It's just like how uh and how like even like people who like new people with the disease, it's like how they're still moved by it. But he's a little bit frustrated by people always talking about how it's a film about dementia, but nobody ever talks about how it's a love story. And how it really is about the husband and wife and how he's starting to lose her and she's losing him, and it's just how that can be just so heartbreaking. And yeah, it does suck. But also, the film does a great job of never like wallowing in its own misery for unlike another short film this year. Uh it does a great job of like still letting you feel like all these emotions, but never like extending them out needlessly. It's just like you understand like how terrible the situation is, and it just keeps on showing you the story, keeps the film going,
Mhm.
but you never like let those emotions go. It's really, really well done. And it's just like, God. And I love this animation style too. I think the
It's so
puppet
unique.
it's so unique. And the puppets are amazing. And it's like the way the paint works, it's just like like when he looks at like an object he doesn't recognize, and it's like you start to see like the thing melting, and like sometimes you see like paint bubbles like float away. And
Mhm.
then it's like there's moments where it's like it's very like Van Gogh inspired. It's just like you see this world, and it's just like it's all
And he,
just so amazing.
the last scene where he's clearly at the point where he's forgetting his wife, the way she's just a bunch of dots essentially, and they still get her across. I thought that was beautiful.
Absolutely. It's just so it looks so amazing. But yeah, you go ahead, talk about your thoughts on the movie.
Um, I'm also gonna rewatch this one because I was also a little bored the first time I watched it, but the more I've been thinking about it since I watched it last night, I'm like, that was actually really beautiful. Like you said, and again, stunning animation, a really interesting way of showing how the disease progresses and how it affects the person you love the most as well as you.
hmm
I genuinely was worried that man was going to kill himself when it turned out it was a hairdryer.
I I actually did remember that gag from the first time. It's like I saw the quote unquote gun on the counter, and it's just like, oh wait, isn't this the point where it turns out it's actually a hairdryer?
Mhm.
And it's
I mean,
like it's actually a kind of a funny gag, but also, still really depressing.
and even like in the beginning when he asks for a piece of fruit and she throws him a banana and he takes a bite into it, I'm like, this is a really good way of showing just how far gone he is.
hmm
No, a very lovely short that I'm going to revisit.
And I also just want to ask, like, since I did make you watch Late Afternoon as well, just like what you think of those short films as like comparisons, like how they depict the disease differently, how they depict the people differently, and so on.
I liked Late Afternoon too. I thought it was really sweet. And that one's more about mother and daughter than marriage. So, um, I don't know. Late Afternoon was also so much shorter, so it feels harder to compare for
Hmm.
me. But I didn't think either of them were exploitive.
Yeah. And
So I,
I'll just say about Late Afternoon. I mentioned this last episode, of course, but it's like with that film, the director originally it wasn't a goal of hers to make a film about Alzheimer's. She just wanted to portray portray like a story of a woman, and it's just like portray
Mhm.
her life and stuff. And as she was in development, it's just like she realized a good way to do this was to have a woman like forget her life, and then we have to like rediscover it with her alongside her. And so we just feel this story unfolding
Mhm.
and at
like
the end, oh, go ahead.
like I'm sure you were the realization that the nurse who's taking care of her is her daughter after
Yes.
all.
Yeah, that's always such a powerful ending. As it's like in the guest last episode, he's telling like it immediately made him cry and everything. It's just, it's good. It,
Because
but yeah.
I uh, it wasn't Alzheimer's, but when my paternal grandmother died when I was 11, she was from cancer. She was forgetting everyone's names. So the few times she did start to remember people towards the end, it was a big thing. So it did kind of make me think of that.
Mhm. But yeah, this film, like I was expecting to have more disparaging things to say about this film, but I really don't. It's just a really good short film. I just really love this one.
Yeah,
We are marathoning or sprinting through this lineup.
I'm
We,
sorry. I
we
just,
it's fine. What I think it is just that we don't feel like riffing. We don't feel like going on these like funny tangents or anything because these films don't really inspire those kind of things.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll move on to our fifth and final nominee, which is Sister, directed by Sichi Song. This is the first and only nomination for Song. She was born in China and studied animation at the Central Academy of Fine Arts before transferring to Cal Arts with an emphasis on experimental animation. It was there she made Sister. Song was born in China during the era of the one-child policy enacted to prevent overpopulation. Families were either forced to undergo contraceptive measures or fined if they went through with a second child. When China changed the policy from one child to two, Song wanted to give a voice to her generation, children who were the one child. Although Song was a rare case personally, she was a second child and a girl at that. Meanwhile, the preference in child was to have your one child be a boy, so she felt
Mhm.
it more appropriate to make her short film from that perspective of a male child. Even the narrator of the film, Bing Young Lu, another Chinese student at Cal Arts, was an only child and whose little sister was aborted. He too often dreamed of what it would be like if he had a little sister, and the millions of people like that is who Song made this film for. Sister features a boy talking about his younger sister, how she would take his things, break things, and lie to parents about who broke it, doing silly things together, normal kid stuff. But the film then reveals that he never actually was able to have a sister because the Chinese government forced his mother to get an abortion. Emily, what did you think of Sister?
I found it really impactful when I found out the twist and why that was the twist because I saw a lot of letterbox reviews mentioning this very easily could be read as like Christian pro-life propaganda, but it's not. It's, if anything, it's pro-choice in the way that it should, how it should have been the family's choice to have a second child if they wanted to.
Hmm.
And I thought the animation style was really interesting. And I liked the scenes where she was a giant baby eating his stuff. I thought that was actually kind of funny. But yeah, obviously I am a white American woman. I cannot relate to having this as your culture, so I'm sure it would hit differently for someone who has.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like when I first watched this film, it was just like it it really impacted me, especially with the twist. But it's just like I think going into it and like reading it with background of it, like already knowing the twist, plus doing all this reading, how every single source is about emphasizing how this is about the one child policy and like how that is the main theme. And then just going into it and like once you see the film is like mainly just like keeping up this facade of like, oh, I have a sister and she's annoying and whatever. It's just like and then eventually, oh, I never had a sister. It's a twist. It's like it did not hit as hard as the first time. And it's just like, and what we're left with is just these like, just a few little scenes where he's like, my sister, eats my, to she takes my things. Oh, my sister, she likes to change the TV channel. Oh, it's just like me and my sister, we watered my tooth. And it's just like it's a little boring.
Hmm.
And it's just like I and it's like yeah, there are still like hints about like the truth. It's like how uh and in the second story, it's like he pulls out her nose to show that she's a liar, but it's also showing that she's a lie. And there's in the first story
Hmm.
when it's like has the little surreal thing where it's like he pulls out her belly button
Hmm.
and like it just deflates her, like that's meant to symbolize how that meant to symbolize the abortion that the mom had. But
Hmm.
it's just like this. I don't know. It's so like I really want to like this film more than I do, but it's just like
Hmm.
it just feels very light to me. And it's like you were saying, I do at least enjoy the animation style. I really like that this year has three different stop motion nominees. I think that's really fun.
Hmm.
Um, but still, it's just like I just wish this was more engaging. I wish this
Hmm.
had more.
Like,
I not to say more going on because it does have a lot going on, but it's just like I just wish it kind of felt a bit more cohesive. I just wish I just wish I liked it more, I think, really.
mhm.
The film doesn't need to be any different. I just need to be different.
Yeah, like part of me almost thinks this would have been interesting as a more full narrative of a film. Like, I don't know how you would do that, but like a full film where then the twist is revealed after like 90 some minutes. But then I don't know.
Hmm. Or it could be interesting as like where it's like you do keep like if it is like a feature film, it's like you keep the facade up for like halfway through the movie, and then the film switches, and then it's like we do start seeing things from his perspective, and it's like we see like how he really wants a sister and stuff, and it's just like we might still get like scenes with the imaginary sister. It's like how he would have liked to have a
Mhm.
sister in this moment or that moment, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like we are
Or
still
even
there
like
emotionally with him.
show the character as a grown man who maybe has actually two kids and thinking about how he never got to experience the
Mhm.
actual experience of having two children or sibling.
For some reason, my mind just went to the Iron Claw. How it's like that film ends with like Zac Efron. He's like he's with his two sons, and it's just like he's just like I've never had a brother before, even which that line hits a lot harder if when you watch the movie. But
Mhm.
it's um yeah, this was still a good movie, but I just wish it hit me more emotionally. And it's like I still
Mhm.
appreciate the craft and whatever. And I really like how like so this film was animated with wool. Like that's what all the characters
Mhm.
are made out of. And I remember reading with the director how she because like every time she would move something, it's just like the wool on the character would like move a little bit. So she ended up having to touch every single object that was made of wool when she was animating each scene, just so it didn't look weird when
Mhm.
things started moving. It wasn't just like the arm had a little bit of movement with the wool and everything else stayed still. It was like everything had this kind of style to it where it's like the fabric was constantly moving. It's very similar to like the blurred line, or not blurred line, boiling line technique that you see in like the Richard Condi movies and Ed and Eddie and things like that.
Mhm.
All right. Uh, I assume you don't have anything else to say about this one.
Not that I can think of, other than were we supposed to believe the mom told the kid on his fourth birthday she had an abortion? Like, God damn, that's a lot to drop on a 4-year-old.
I don't think. she told him that day, but it's just like I think it's just like that it happened that day, and it's like maybe like later
Mhm.
on, like she told him, or maybe in China it's just like you're just very matter of fact about that. I don't know.
Mhm.
But anyway, we've gone through the five nominees, and now that we've gone through them, we will rank them all. Uh, Emily, start us off with your number five.
Number five is daughter.
All right. My number five is, of course, Kitbull because I hate it. It's terrible. Number four.
Number four is sister.
My number four is also Sister,
Oh
which
wow, we
yeah. Number three.
my number three is memorable.
My number three is Hair Love.
Wow.
Number two.
Number two is Kitbull.
My number two is Memorable, and your
Ooh,
number one is, of course,
hair love. I'm that cliche person.
no, it's not a cliche. It's a good movie. It's just like I
Mhm.
understand why everybody loves it. It's just and I wish I still loved it as much as I used to, but it's just
Mhm.
it just fell off for me. But my number one is your number five, which is Daughter. Yeah, it just really emotionally moved me.
I
Just
think this is like the almost the opposite of what happened last time because you had Peter and the Wolf in number five, and that was my number two.
yeah. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention is that Kitbull actually reminded me a lot of Peter and the Wolf, especially like the scene when they're escaping from the uh trash place or the backyard, I guess it is. But it's just like, and also just like a lot of similar visual elements because it's like the backyard, like Peter's backyard is also like very full of trash. It also gets thrown into a dumpster. That movie I just remembered. It's just,
Oh yeah, by the bullies.
yeah. And here we have a bully dog.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing I wanted to mention as kind of a last note was that so when I was predicting the Oscar nominations this year, of course I hadn't seen any of the movies except for Hair, Love, and Kitbull, and like those were the only ones in the short list that I knew. Uh,
Hmm.
but I did notice that not only like the short list this year had both a film called Sister and a film called Daughter, and I was like, oh, that's funny, I'll put both of those in. And I noticed that the live action short list had a film called like Brotherhood and another film called A Sister. I was like, okay, I'll just put those in over there, and I ended up getting like a 10 out of 10 for like these two categories, just getting perfect predictions.
That's so
It was like
funny.
fucking crazy. The only time that's ever happened that I've even gotten like all five for any category, I think.
Hmm.
And it's just like, just because I was just like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if they did sister and
Hmm.
daughter and brother and sister again? But yeah, uh, before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Emily, or anything you'd like to promote?
Not that I can think of. Think other than thank you again for having me.
Thank you for coming on again. I felt bad about like giving you this episode, but I think we still had a fun time recording it.
I did.
All right. Well, thank you, Emily, for coming on, and thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been a short podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.